Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Engineering Tech Show. And here are your hosts, Goshi King and Joe Green.
Hi, Joe.
Good afternoon, Goshi.
How's it going?
Oh, it's going very well today. How are you?
I'm pretty good. You ready to talk about this augmented reality and virtual reality?
I'm ready. I'm very excited for this one.
I think they're two different things, but they're the same.
They're very similar, Goshi. Very, very similar. I think that most people probably think of virtual reality. I would say that's the more common one, where you're kind of immersing yourself into a little electronic world. You put on a visor, your vision gets taken over by this thing, and you think you're somewhere else.
It's called visor? Visor with a V?
Headset, I guess.
Yeah? Not goggles?
Goggles would work. Goggles is probably the more common term.
Give me an example. Do you know of people who make these things?
Yeah, so I think Oculus is one of the common ones. That one, I believe, is the Facebook people.
Oh, yeah?
Then PlayStation has one that you can use with their PlayStation, obviously.
No way. They've got their own thing.
Yeah.
Is PlayStation Sony?
Yep.
Excuse my ignorance. I'm not a gamer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else? I think there's a few other companies out there. Vive is another one.
Yes, Vive. I've seen
that
those.
one's popular.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So these goggles, what do they do to you? They make you a robot?
Some of them might. What they do, as far as I know, they project two images, one for each eye. They kind of do their best to make like a little overlap so it looks real to your vision.
Wait, so it's like some sort of 360 view? Like a wide angle?
Wide angle. I think
as
the technology gets better, it'll probably get wider and wider. And more, I guess, less pixelated, more detailed, and more refined.
You know, one of the things I was going to say in the beginning of this episode, Joe, was that this topic, the augmented reality versus, or not versus, but, you know, the discussion of augmented reality and virtual reality may sound more too technical or boring to some of our audience, but that's not really going to be the case, is it?
I think it's pretty exciting. I think they may not know it, but they could have a application for one of those in their lives.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking, because when I first came across it, I just kind of dismissed it, because not knowing about something, you know, it's easy to dismiss something than to actually know about something and then say, oh my God, this is like amazing, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not a gamer, so I don't, you know, like the virtual reality. Like, for example, let's talk about virtual reality. In the beginning, in the start of virtual reality, what did you see? Like, where was it used the most? The virtual reality. Let's not get into augmented reality yet.
My experience is more in the gaming world. I would say it's kind of taken over a little bit for that. And also what else is there? Yeah. I know that, you know, different video games have, there you go. Thank you. That's much better. Yeah, from what I know of the video game world for virtual reality, they have, especially nowadays, it's definitely growing and getting more advanced, but from anything basic kind of chat rooms, they have like a little VR spin on that, so you get your avatars. Yeah. Yep.
I've never seen or used one, but that sounds exciting.
Yeah. So you get your person, you get into different chat rooms, and it's like would literally be a room you can walk around.
Like actually, like people. You can get up and then say, I'm going to go over there, and somehow you figure it out and you walk up there.
Yeah.
Without actually leaving your seat.
You might have to stand up. I'm not sure on that one. You might be playing these standing up.
Yeah.
I think most of them obviously different headsets, different games will have different setups, but you will have like a room clear basically. Maybe the more area you have, the better, because they have more area to walk around, to move, and to kind of, I guess, bigger room, bigger surface.
Something naughty just popped in my head. You know, a whole bunch of conservative and maybe old school liberals too, you know what they would say to me right now, right? On you. They would say, I don't want my children to be using virtual reality because I've heard some terrible things about it. what those terrible things are, Joe.
I have no idea what bad stuff could be on there. I'm sure definitely adult content is out there.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. There you go. Yes, exactly.
And
so what would you say to those parents?
I would say, I mean, that stuff is everywhere. It's on your phone nowadays.
Uh-huh.
I mean, if they really want to stop their kid from having something, they have to do some pretty drastic measures.
So do you think that these things have some sort of like parental control?
I imagine that,
Probably.
I mean, if you go to a website, it'd be a similar thing where you click if you're over, 18, 21, something like that. I mean, it's not going to be more, rigorous. I mean, I guess it could, but...
Well, so some of the stuff, like, for example, the adult content is, only supposedly sold to 18 and older anyways. And so if your kid's using it, well, they're breaking the rules to begin with.
Yeah.
And it, like you said, it doesn't have to be a VR or something. It could be just their phones. Because what kids does not have a smartphone these days? I'm just, baffled by how young of an age kids are allowed to have these electronics.
It's everywhere.
And the other thing is the video games too, like the games that are that have some profanity or bad language. They put it right on the video game. It's like PG-13 or something like that, right?
Yeah, I think they have mature stuff like that.
Oh yeah, PG's for movies.
But it's the same idea as you have to be some age to go see a rated R movie.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if they still apply that at all, but when I was a kid, you would either need an adult or a guardian to watch a rated R movies.
Well, years ago when I went to watch Jackass, big mistake, in a theater, I was surprised to see that how many teenagers or around age 10, my guess, were in the theater.
I'm guessing that was a rated R movie.
Yeah, it
probably wasn't PG.
No, but was it really?
I would think so.
I don't know. But anyway, it was pretty inappropriate.
Yeah.
Parts of it anyways.
I guess that's it with VR, especially now. Some of the games are world building games where different, I could create my own world, you would create yours. I mean, I think you'd be able to get, I would say as younger people get into it, kids might be able to create their own
what do you
virtual
mean create?
playgrounds.
Are you talking about something like Minecraft where you actually create things, build things inside a video game?
Yes. I think that it will be a mix of I think Minecraft, for example, it does have a VR game. And so I think you will get some games like that the whole purpose is you manipulate this world and you can turn it into something else. But then I think you're also going to get a more user-friendly software to use to create worlds where you can maybe change the gravity, change different physical aspects of it to have it a whole different universe. You could probably build something like Avatar, the Blue People movie, where floating islands and all that stuff, and you can really make it so the physics would, I guess, apply there. Kind of could be a whole different, I guess, universe, and which is kind of interesting to think about. I'm sure even now there's probably on I don't know what units you would use, square foot, square mile basis. The virtual world is probably much, much larger than our human physical world. So I mean, it's probably tons of worlds and cities out there, and I
Very
think as
interesting.
it grows and gets easier, there'll probably be more and more.
It sounds like that libertarian utopian city could be built in there.
You could.
You can model one and then present it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Something popped in my head, but I think I'll wait to bring that up again later in terms of the whole modeling and, the whole real feel. But my father is 65 years old, 66 years old.
Mm-hmm.
How do I sell this to him? Or can I sell it to him?
I think you could. You could. That's I think a whole aspect is just, obviously maybe there's not a whole lot of videos out there, but a whole travel experience. You could, I don't know, tell him that he could almost go anywhere in the world and pretend that he's there with VR, I guess, technology.
That's fascinating. You just said that because it's just opened up this whole new image. Because some people like traveling, they like walking, they like, sightseeing sort of stuff. You
Mhm.
could create that or it probably already exists, where you can actually go places where you haven't been or incapable of anymore,
Yeah.
i.e. climbing Mount Everest
Yeah.
or K2, right?
I think it just takes someone to obviously have like a easy to use video recording devices to, like have a little follow me and just have it take them on their trails and then upload that experience. Or who knows, Google Maps or something, Google Earth could,
Yeah.
with their drive around cars, almost come up with some.
Reminds me of that video game, the Red Dead Redemption 2.
2.
Apparently, you can pick a map and either walk or horse ride on it. I have yet to try that one, but the graphics look amazing. I've seen it
Mhm.
on YouTube. I wonder if it's in the VR yet or not. Probably not.
Probably not, but who knows? The Red Dead Redemption 3 could be VR.
Yeah,
Which,
that'd be amazing.
yeah.
I also like because I sometimes buy video games for my nephews. I never played them. I don't know how to, and I'll just buy it for them because I love my boys. And so there was I was looking at one video game. I can't remember specifics, but the professional reviews on those. Sometimes the quality of video game drops from one version to the newer one.
Yeah.
And but anyway, hopefully that won't happen with Red. Not that I'm invested in it, but I'm just saying the Red Dead Redemption 2 looked really, really great.
From what I've heard with that, I mean, the storyline that they have in it is, I think, one of the things that makes it, and the open world aspect where you don't have to follow as strict. Actually, I don't know. I never played it, so I shouldn't say. But I think it has a pretty open storyline where you can be good, you can be bad, and it sort of adapts to those choices and to your, I guess,
Yeah.
good or bad.
Yeah.
Points.
I heard pretty much the same thing, that they were saying that you could be a good person or a bad person. Good Samaritan, I think the word used.
Yes.
Or just
An
badass.
outlaw.
Outlaw. Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. So back to our virtual reality definition. So it's a thing that you wear on your head, and it takes you to this imaginary world.
That's what I would say, yeah.
Which resembles the real world, and you experience things that you wouldn't otherwise experience with that ease.
Right.
Like, from the comfort of your living room.
It kind of just, I mean, I guess it takes over your vision, and it
Yeah.
projects, onto your eyes, or, basically.
So other than video games, is there anything other example do you know of?
Well,
with
that
virtual reality?
they have a lot with, I think what's neat is the training kind of educational aspect of it too. I found one, I think it was a school in Australia, or a company there was developing VR classroom programs for science and math and history. I imagine history will be a very interesting, I guess, movies and way to use VR, that and science. I mean, you could run physics experiments and chemistry experiments that a normal school would not be able to do. You could
Joe,
have it do a lot.
Yeah, how's that different from watching a video of an experiment that, was recorded by some lecturer or professor and whatnot
I think with this, you'd actually be running the
There.
experiment yourself. You would be pouring out your chemicals into a beaker, measuring it, and then pouring it into your other beaker, and maybe you'll explode on you.
So just so I'm clear, that's virtual reality. That's not augmented reality yet.
It could be either one.
It could be the one. We'll get into the augmented reality
Yeah.
because I'm really, really fascinated by what's about to happen or is happening with it.
Mhm.
Differences. Well, let's talk about now that it's probably a good time to segue right into it,
Might
right?
as well.
The introduction of the augmented reality.
Yes.
What's augmented reality?
Augmented reality.
Why are you confusing me with all these terms, man?
AR and VR,
Uh-huh.
sometimes called mixed reality.
Yeah.
You basically will get, Google Glass is augmented reality.
Google Glass.
It's basically a display over the real world. So, kind of seeing the world with a lens, and you get to see. So I would see you, but maybe I would be able to display a bunch of information. I guess it's a way to display data over the real world.
Microsoft HoloLens.
Yes.
Is it called HoloLens or is it called HoloLens? Just kidding.
Jeez, I've only heard it called HoloLens, but I never thought about it.
Because I mean, it
It's
talks
very
about
interesting.
that's also
That's augmented reality.
augmented
as well.
reality
Yeah.
contraption.
Yep. That one.
Science, bitch.
Yeah, it's amazing. That but they just, I don't know, recently, but they have their second version of it out, and what I thought was pretty cool, it uses like finger tracking, hand tracking, instead of gloves to know what you're doing. So
How does it know that? Are you not wearing any sensors? Like, how does it know?
All you have are like the goggle headset, I believe.
And they find your like somehow they figure out like, oh, this is matches the hand description, so okay.
Yeah.
And then you have to like somehow program it.
So I think it'll just have maybe obviously some cameras that pick up your hand, so it must like do some initial calibration, track you, and then it can like watch your fingers, so you can either like move objects around or expand, contract.
In real life.
So you would, yes, like I would be, like stretching an image of you, making it larger, smaller. Obviously, I mean, it's like it's not a hologram. It's like your display that kind of does it for you.
Uh-huh.
But I imagine it would be similar to like using holograms and stuff.
Wow.
And yeah, it would be pretty fascinating, I think. Just a really unique way to display data.
So I'm still lost. What are the differences and similarities then? Like what is the limitation of VR versus AR? And why AR is AR better than VR?
I think they both have their applications. Like if you have to see what's going on, VR would be horrible. Like if you have to see what's going on in real life, VR would not be good because you would not see that. That's where the
because
AR
that image is projected right before you inside a goggle that was covering your eyes.
Yep.
And you can't really see daylight. Is
Yep.
that correct? Yeah.
Correct. I mean, I guess you could. It could be good enough to project to make a video of reality for you.
Yeah.
But what's the point of that when you can just use AR?
That's why it's called virtual.
Yeah. You're in
Yeah.
a virtual world.
Yeah. What other differences and similarities can you point out?
Well, I guess with VR, because you are in a different world, you would need additional sound. I think some of the headsets, the goggles, have speakers built in. Other ones do not. So that would be a different thing. And then the augmented reality, I guess it's the same, but you're more likely to be listening just with your ears to what's going on in real life instead of listening as much to your set.
So it could have benefits and drawbacks because of that. In a AR scenario, you have not only maybe like some sort of sound that's coming remotely from, for example, if you're interacting with some other people remotely,
Mm-hmm.
right, and you're sharing the same model that you're manipulating at the time. I think that we'll probably need to describe what that is first. But you can also have audience around you in that you could hear them and they can hear you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's a good point. I think I think the sound would be an issue with either one. Probably mostly always with VR, but sometimes with the AR. For example, I believe with the HoloLens, that is more of a complete like goggle headset that blocks your vision. Does it block your vision?
I don't think
Maybe
so.
it's just like a visor so you kind of see.
Yeah, it is a visor, yeah.
But I don't know how it
Yeah.
does the sound, if it has speakers or
Well,
you might need separate ones. The internet. Perfect.
Yeah, I've got it open and I see that it's just there's no earpiece.
Mm.
No, wait, that's the wrong website. Hold on.
What are you looking at?
Yeah, I see no headpiece and HoloLens too.
I guess
there's like a something in the back. It's rather big, and then there's something in the front, and it's got like cameras or something like that. And folks, if you're interested in finding out what that looks like, you can literally go to Microsoft.com/US. Nope, hold on.
probably just do an internet search for HoloLens.
Yeah, it's like just Microsoft HoloLens. HOLOLENSE 2. Number 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all right.
But I guess I think one of the fascinating aspects is training, where both of those can take you.
Let's move back a little bit.
Sure.
Augmented reality is essentially the same sort of concept. You wear this goggle contraption on your head, and in the example of HoloLens 2, your eyes are not fully covered, so your peripheral of your eye is always visible. I'm looking at it right now, so I can see her eyeball, the little lady in the picture, and it's set as if it's like right there. It's a couple inches from your eyes, and it's see-through. You can see their eyes. So I'm not sure exactly what they see. Obviously they see it right on their screen, right? But they can skip that and look beyond the screen into whatever's in front of them. And I think that's one of the major differences between a VR and an AR. Virtual reality you don't do that. With augmented reality, you actually can be in front of a physical object while there is something else being projected right in front of you. So you can choose what you're looking at.
Yes.
And that's fascinating to me, because now you have taken VR to a whole new level, Joe. That you've taken it to, like, you've combined virtual with the real world, for a lack of a better word.
You've mixed it together.
You've mixed it together. That's why I think they call it mixed reality, right? Because you have reality, but you can also have the non-reality, the virtuality part of it. And I think we probably wouldn't talk about some of the examples of that. Like applications, right? Like the application for a augmented reality.
I would say, I think just in the kind of,
you were
probably
just
better for sharing stuff, I think.
Yeah,
too.
like the training you were saying.
Yeah.
Right? Like, okay, for example, you were talking about the chemistry lab experiments and whatnot, right? Now you could have that. And I think augmented reality could produce content for virtual reality by just doing that. Whoever's creating that. Augmented reality is probably a better approach to create content for virtual reality that people can later on play with. Right?
I imagine like biology would be a pretty neat augmented reality kind of, I guess, sync. I think you could, like, if you're dissecting a frog in high school or something like that, obviously maybe, say you still can dissect the frog, it could display to you all the information, what you're cutting, could tell you where, you probably know what the heart is, but it might be able to tell you more information. Maybe it'll be like, oh, well, this frog was sick. You can tell by the heart disease and all that.
So perfect timing for that, for the segue, because I was going to talk about this thing called APOQLAR, or Apoclar.
Yeah.
APOQLAR. I don't know. It's just, that's a website, and it's about medical, augmented reality integration into medical industry. And you can go on to the APOQLAR.com and see for yourself. But what I found is that it's surgeons, doctors, whatever, right? Are either examining a real-time patient, right? For example, I'm doing brain surgery, for example, right? And they've got the head cut open, and the real deal is right before me. But with the augmented reality, I could also have what it's supposed to look like, or what it looked like a month before, or what it's, what I should be doing to manipulate to match what's on my screen to what's there.
Yeah.
Right? And that's revolutionary, because now not only that I don't have to memorize everything, right? Not only that I don't have to miss a step, I don't have to consult with anybody. It's right there, right before my eyes, right? And I can literally, like, piece by piece, bolt by bolt. That's the wrong terminology for medicine,
Let's hope so.
But bolt by bolt, I can pick away at it, right?
Yeah.
Right? Like, think of the possibilities that the augmented reality has created for any industry, let alone medical industry. And medical industry is so complex and complicated.
Yeah, I think with that, the company, the APU, whatever,
Apoclar.
What they can also do is, you get like an MRI done. You have a scan of your body, of your brain. So as they're cutting in, I believe they can almost like overlay that MRI as the doctor is doing the work, it can show them tons of information.
Yeah.
I imagine for like whatever, like when someone loses a limb and they have to reconstruct all of the nerves, that would probably in a way maybe be able to like better tell you like how it all matches up and keep track of that, so you're not kind of guessing what goes what. It might speed up the process, make it easier.
Yeah. Like another example of that could be, you know, you and I are mechanical engineers, so let's talk about some of that. A turbine of some sort, where it has just loaded with different, you know, gears and whatnot, and you are either putting it together or taking it apart, and you're doing it right before you, right? You have the whole thing right in front of you, and you're putting the pieces together. I don't know. Let's just make it even simpler. You're rebuilding an engine of a vehicle, right? And where what goes, you can either, you know, reference a manual of some sort, right? Back and forth, or you've got these goggles on, and you see it right before you, and you see it what it should look like, what piece goes where,
Yeah.
and you put it together in no time.
I mean, if you're like redoing a transmission or something, it could.
Yeah, all those plates that you have to align, and oh my God, it could be a lifesaver there.
Imagine stuff like that, especially like if you or I had the ability to make our videos. You're gonna get, you know, people, instead of making YouTube videos, they make little VR videos like for people, and
I cannot wait for that day.
then some
I'd be the
technology
one.
will immerse you in and all that.
Yeah. If something like that comes up, you know, like how when the 3D printers came and you could do like an open source 3D printer, and, you know, a lot of us were going and experimenting on that. It'd be so cool to actually have a something that's like a augmented reality stuff that you can first build together, or, you know, get it right off the shelf, and then do exactly what you just said.
Yeah.
Work on stuff that, you know, becomes an augmented reality with someone else in real life, right? How to change axle on Volkswagen Jetta.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just saying, right? How to take apart your Cadillac Escalade's motor.
Yeah. I mean, it could be that. It could be like how to reframe windows, how to
Any
do
of that.
all that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it could get like, the more specific it is, the more valuable it's going to be. Window is pretty generic.
Yeah.
Right? Like that could take forever because there's so many windows in the world.
Yeah.
I suppose it could take for the same for everything.
Yeah.
But
that's where I guess, like, you know, you buy a window, you scan the QR code, and up pops a video of how you install
how you put it together.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think there's definitely a lot of applications out there, and it's just waiting for, obviously, for the technology to get more common, I think.
I mean, you know, think of a serviceman who's trying to service a piece of equipment, you know, like a scroll chiller, or, you know, or something like that on a you know, chiller on a job, right? Which is still under warranty, and he's got to be in contact with a factory. For instance, it could be Train, it could be Multi-Stack, it could be Climacool, I don't care, right? And someone from a Climacool is wearing augmented reality goggles, and he's standing right in front of their chiller, right, in front of the compressor, and a tech's at the site, thousands of miles away. Could be in, you know, Indonesia, or could be in Texas, and the I don't know, Climacool might be in Toronto. I'm just saying, right? And you could be guiding them. You see this, and they'd be like, "Yep, pull that apart. You take that." Like, it could be like, you know, like not just recorded stuff, but even live stuff, like the team collaboration on, you know, manipulating things, right? In actual real life applications.
Yeah, I think that's where it definitely makes conference calls kind of way old technology. You can, I mean, instead of calls, you would just put on your headset, hop into a virtual room with people, and if you have like an engine to show them or anything like that, graphs. I mean, imagine instead of just kind of our Excel graphs, you could do like 3D graphs so easily with all that stuff.
Yeah.
I think the whole just data display, I mean, really your imagination is going to be the limit pretty soon.
I was going to say that. You stole the words out of my mouth. So back to the medical industry, especially, you know, like a surgeon, it's just your regular doctor, it's just pediatrician, it's What's the doctor who does the deliveries of the babies? Is it not pediatrician, but the gynecologist?
No, OB-GYNs, right? I forget something like
Okay,
that.
yeah, whatever,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
But my apologies because I'm not really good with medical terms. But think of all these things that these people can do. But beyond that, that's something that they've been doing, and now it's just making it easier for them. Then it's computerized stuff. It's all virtual or augmented reality, and they're implementing what they already know, maybe a lot quicker.
Mm-hmm.
But let's talk about a very, very recent development by Elon Musk.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
What was he talking about, and where we're taking this?
So he has a company, Neuralink, and what they are working on is basically like a interface between machines and your brain. So I think they call it the brain. Well, I forget what it's called, but it's kind of how. So what he has, his machine kind of implants electrodes into your brain, so that you would be able to use those to control. Either it could control limbs, like your prosthetics, or it can control some machine out in the field. It could probably control some robot that's maintaining your chiller as well at some point. I mean, granted, it's in the works. I think they're just starting to test it. But, I mean, I guess it's working on thought control in a way.
You know what I'm thinking, right?
Telekinesis. What are you thinking?
Good one. No, what I was thinking is there's a whole bunch of libertarians with a tinfoil hat on their heads, including present party included. And what you just said, they'll be like, no way, man, the government is going to take control of that, and they're going to be moving my limbs, and what am I going to be doing? I'll be completely out of control.
Yep.
I don't want to be a 1984 George Orwell.
It's coming, though. I mean, I guess that's a very, very good point. If that can get hacked, that would be quite devastating to someone out there. But I guess, too, I mean, granted, if you're looking at something so close, your computer getting hacked. But if you are watching, just imagine if you're like watching a video on VR or something like that, and some pranker hacks into it and can control what you see.
Yeah.
That could, I mean...
Well, that take the fun out of it. I think that people would, if that did ever happen, something like that happen, I think that, obviously, like with computers and other technologies right now, there are some things that are extremely behind, like different types of firewalls and securities and encryptions.
I guess I was thinking more like on a prank kind of.
Yeah, and that
like
would
if
happen.
I was home and my brothers were there. If I could hack into it. Yeah, I guess
that'd be pretty funny, actually.
But yeah, definitely outside sources, it could be a very bad thing.
And I think that usually state actors are more damaging than the private actors, even though that's not really true in technology, because there's bad actors with virus developers, or what's the word, malware.
Yeah.
Crap that snoops in, and now there are softwares that you like there's so many free applications that you download, but how do you know that they're not really sitting in the background listening to you or using some sort of resources? It's a known fact that there have been instances where people's apps or whatever they downloaded was helping them mine cryptocurrencies on their phones and computers and whatnot. So who's to say that in the future those things won't arise? I think they will, but there's always going to be free market solutions. That's what free market does. Free market provides solutions, and if people who are interested in privacy and security, not just security, do find those resources if they're looking for them. You just got to look at the right places. But that's a good segue right into the libertarian commentary on virtual and augmented reality, because one of the criticism is the concerns that libertarians always have is security, right? How secure are these things, and how much control a government or malicious agencies can have over this? What do you think?
I imagine, one of the big issues could just be how free is your information. In a way, like, not my actual personal data, but how freely can I distribute information? That would be kind of a flip on your security. But then, I don't know. I guess one thing that might keep it safe for right now is just the fact that it'd be so much data to transfer to somewhere. I mean, like if someone wanted to get all the video that I was watching,
Yeah.
that it could be for the time of physical limitation. As far as, I mean, it's probably semi-fine now, but I imagine as it grows, it'll get a little bit worse.
So on some of the other tech shows, especially libertarian tech shows, without giving out any names, without permission, but I did hear concerns about, because of these big giants who are producing these items. Microsoft's one of them, notorious for, privacy and security violations of people. Well, maybe secure, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Google is secure, Gmail is secure, but is it private? No. And similarly, like Facebook or Microsoft, they may be secure, but they're more susceptible to hacking. They have been, and sharing data on a whim to whoever they please, and so there are concerns. I feel like these are legitimate concerns, as long as the technology is maybe monopolized or like have special privileges for certain. So I think as more competition arises and more open source stuff is around, I think that it would change things. I'm a big believer in open source things, and that could create some hope for libertarians to. Because I'm worried about using Windows 10 and HoloLens 2, because I don't want anyone to know everything I do every day. That's
I guess, yeah. And wearing a headset, it could provide so much more, I guess, intimate information too.
Like Joe, IoT. We talk about this. You and I often talk about IoT and especially in our industry, our engineering's related stuff, and we see that. How do we know? Not every platform has encryption, and if they do have encryption, what kind of encryption? And if what are the barriers that are put in place for other? Because it's a big concern. IoT is so wide open, easily hackable everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
People are able to control people's cars, for crying out loud, making people's cars fail. There's been videos on YouTube, or these experiments have been done, put on 60 Minutes and some similar programs. What was the other program that they was a science program, or like two guys who pretty much test all the theories on science? What was it called?
Mythbusters?
Mythbusters,
Yeah.
Thank you. I was having a blank there. They have an episode on that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in IoT, this is it, right? This is another level of IoT, and it's out on the cloud, for lack of a better word, right? The invisible cloud, and they're getting access to that, and depends on who you are and what you do. I don't know. I mean, I feel like it's a legitimate concern. Don't you think? Don't you agree?
Yeah, I agree. I imagine, obviously, just probably good password management is
halfway there.
your first step to...
Use VPNs and end-to-end encryptions, and I'm sure that the applications as they're developed, hopefully because the future possibly is open source. Maybe not immediate future, but near future. And I believe that if that does happen, if the open source does take over, then I think the security issue will definitely be on top of the list for some of these guys, and privacy, not just security. But security issue aside, this technology is just so fascinating. The possibility is so endless that I find there's so much hope in it, for people to implement different applications.
There was I remembered about this a little bit ago. I think one of the first uses of VR was actually, like, I want to say the Air Force or the Navy using it to train pilots. And for obvious reasons, it's probably a lot cheaper to send someone on thousands or hundreds of hours on their computer instead of in a $1 million airplane. Mm-hmm. So I think,
it seems to me that the benefits right now outweigh the concerns.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's such an early development. I think if you play your cards right, you can probably control your information.
Yeah.
and not let it snoop out. But in the future, you have to be vigilant about it.
I imagine like video games, I don't think people are really concerned about. I shouldn't say that. I'm sure some video games, maybe someone can hack in and take your swords and stuff like that. But I would say for the most part, video games seem like I don't know, there's nothing really worth stealing or hacking. The only hacks seem to be people going in trying to like manipulate the game itself or to gain advantages.
Yeah. I'm gonna segue here real quick and talk about building industries.
Yeah.
That's our field. And let's talk about what augmented reality could mean in building industry. And I'm gonna give you an example, and I'm gonna hand over and listen to your feedback. Autodesk created a program. It's still around. It's called Navisworks Manage.
Mm-hmm.
And the Manage program is used for, like, say, if you have different blueprints from different, disciplines. You take a building from a structure of a building from an architect, and that includes structural information that was designed by a structural engineer in a three-dimensional program. And then you input mechanicals information. That means, all the mechanical equipment is there, the ductwork's there, the mechanical piping for, hot water, chill water, steam, whatever is in the building is in there. And then you go to an electrical engineer and they say, give me your information. And they give you their information, and then all the receptacles show up, and the lights show up, and the conduits and the things like that, electrical panels show up on the same architectural building. And then you take the step further, and then you ask the plumber engineer and the fire protection engineer, and on and on. And then once everybody's information is there, you put it into Microsoft, not Microsoft, I'm sorry, I keep saying Autodesk Navisworks Manage, and it becomes a 3-dimensional, 4-dimensional model that you can work with. And the reason why you want to do that is you want to look for conflicts, so that, for example, if on this ceiling at this particular location a light bulb goes, you don't want sprinkler head to show up in the same place. And so one of the features that this program has is, while you're walking from room to room or zone to zone, you can create a imaginary person. It's called live person in a place. And then you can also set this option called gravity, so that it stays on the floor level. So when you're walking, it doesn't go up and down. So you're not, because you're obviously walking a virtual reality, but without the lenses. And you're walking through the building, and you can go from one room to the other, come back out, all that stuff, inspect things, say this doesn't look right. If there are conflicts, you can identify them, make a note of them, and then tell the design team to fix it, right? But the issue is, everybody is making these 3-dimensional drawings in their own separate programs. They're not looking at everybody else. They might be looking at time to time to compare and so forth, but 99% of the time, when everybody puts the drawings together, there are thousands of clashes. Lights is clashing with mechanical pipe, ductwork is clashing with structural steel, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so, what do you think? I know what you're going to say, but I was going to ask you that the augmented reality, where can we take this 3-dimensional building modeling to with augmented reality, and how can we improve that?
I would say with augmented reality, especially if you're doing like coordination type stuff, it could make, if I was the architect and you're mechanical, it could make, I might be able to see what you're seeing a lot easier if you can use like Navisworks and kind of like zero in on an area. You could show me in 3D what it is that's happening. We'd kind of, I guess, be different rooms, whatever, looking through our goggles, and we would be able to see the same thing. You could point to me what's happening. I think with obviously that could probably be AR or VR, just if you're in your room doing that. I would say in the actual construction process, the augmented reality could be extremely beneficial. You would be like walking room to room, and maybe through your display, you're going to see what it should look like, and then you'd be able to also see what it looks like as well. I'm sure software at some point will be able to take the two and actually tell you, like, oh, hey, by the way, like, a valve's in a different spot, a pipe's in a different spot, or like, you know, where they hung stuff is too low. Later on, when they come to put in lights, there's not going to be room. They'll get to that kind of, I don't know, like QA, QC kind of quality assurance as well, instead of just information display. So have a feedback to tell you a little bit more information as far as what you're seeing. Obviously, you don't want to rely on it too much, because then it sort of, I think you still need some knowledge and some experience, but
right,
it's going to make it a more level playing field between your novice and your experienced guy. It's going to almost be who gets, I guess, more quickly adapted to technology.
Well, you and I both know that oftentimes there is, you know, the designer themselves are not always as novice as, you know, we would like to hope, and time constraints and construction schedules are always a burden on design teams. And same thing happens on, you know, the magnitude of the jobs. If it's a small job and low budget job, then you might not get novice workers on the site. So, you know, it's definitely a specialty field that would emerge one day. But I was imagining that, you know, it's not just for the design, like you said, you know, like the during the construction, you know, a construction manager or a foreman or even an installer himself can or herself can stand in the room and, you know, overlay stuff and see where stuff is and where it should be and that sort of thing, and make adjustments as necessary. But imagine even for a designer, and actually not just for designer, for everybody who's involved, whether you're a designer that, you know, you're supposed to put stuff on a blueprint, or the ones who are actually installing it. You know, a designer, what they do is they look at white screen on their computers, it's flat, and they draw stuff, right? That represent what's going to be, but it does not look like when they're looking on the screen as a three-dimensional thing. There are ways to do that, but it becomes very difficult to draw in three-dimensional, at least now, like, because this is what we do for a living, so we kind of know there are limitations to that, and you can mess things up in no time. So that's why you draw on a flat plane, you know, an XY dimension, but in reality, the thing that you're drawing has a third dimension. Until you actually go into isometric 3D view, you can get to see that, and you pick and choose what elevation, you know, how high above the floor level you want it to be. You preset that and you draw it in these fancy programs, CAD-driven programs. But now with augmented reality, a designer could be in the room where everything else is already probably in place, and he or she is trying to put the piece together. And instead of drawing it on the flat screen, they literally grab that piece of ductwork or whatever with your hands, and you're trying to wedge it in there and see if it's a fit. No, it doesn't fit. What do I do here? Oh, I can go up a little bit here. Oh, I can do offset here. And you can see that how intense and beneficial that could be for a designer from one. So if you got to run from the one end of the hallway to the on the other end of the hallway, you can stand there and then start to put pieces together and sort of really take it to a whole another level. Because right now, even though everybody draws in 3D, it's not collaborated as it should be. But with this, you can go a step further, right?
I imagine, especially in the coordination part of it all, it's just a much clearer way to display that information of your building. There was, I guess, another use for the augmented part would be, like, if you're an architect and you're going out with an owner, you could, you know, if you have, like, an existing building, you could have your augmented reality program load up what your future building is going to look like. So you could kind of show them that, you know, in 2 years, this is what your building is going to look like. They could look around. I heard a pretty neat application of it. It was actually VR, but it was to show a building owner, like, what the vegetation was going to look like. And it was kind of like, that was the most use this team found for VR was in more just like that
Aesthetics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was being able to show like these trees or shrubs against the building, and they were using VR. They sold an owner on their like landscape stuff. Just
Yeah.
'cause I guess it was
Yeah.
looked good.
That's so amazing. And you know, interior designers or architects could probably do the same. You know, they have the owner who is wearing goggles, and they're all standing in the room. That's sort of, you know, assumed to be a lobby or, you know, a conference room or a lecture hall or whatever. And they can, on a whim, like architect could just grab a chair from the toolbox here and place it there. It's like, this is what it looks like.
Yeah.
I don't like it. Owner says, moved.
Yeah.
Would you rather like contemporary? Yeah, I like contemporary. Right there.
They have a whole library.
They have a
to choose
library.
from.
Yeah, and then you
Yeah.
just swipe, but it's in like not on paper or rendered 3D image that takes forever to produce.
Yeah.
And resources. I mean, the amount of resources a computer program needs to do the rendering is insane. You can't just use your ordinary PC to do those. You know, I used to do some of that, you know, with programs that aren't even designed for it. But, you know, like, it would take forever. You know, it's just to render something to make it real. You know, architects use some very sophisticated programs that cost a lot of money, and it takes a lot of time to do just one scene. But with augmented reality, it's like this. You change your scene in no time. You can move, and all that's happening when everybody else is watching.
Yeah.
Right? And you don't have to, like, and you have live feedback. Like, don't like this. Can we do this? Can we have a shelf here? I don't like this shelf. Move it out of here. I want, a fireplace here.
Yeah, you could like do a bathroom or kitchen remodel in minutes.
God, in minutes. Yeah.
Lowe's will have their own little VR department.
Yeah.
Or AR or whatever.
I kind of want to be. We're running. We're already in. Oh, how long have we been talking? Yeah, so we're around 50-some minutes.
Pretty good.
I feel like we probably need to segue into our last segment of our podcast, which is gadgets. But before I do go there, is there anything else that you'd like to mention?
I would quickly actually just like to mention that I think with the increase of like AR and VR, you're going to see a lot more, especially if it's like open source, like you say. You're going to see kids and people at home working in their garage, tinkering with that stuff, I think coming up with kind of novel uses of it, new ways to maybe use either AR or VR to control machines. Maybe there'll be a kid who finds out how to hijack his riding lawnmower with VR, and he's able to mow lawns from his garage or something like that. So I think we're going to see a lot of just novel uses for it in the coming years.
I like it. I love science. I don't know about you.
It's good.
And then I want to have this gadget that's been popular on the internet lately. It's called car emoji thing. What's it called, Joe?
I don't know, but that sounds about right.
Emoji display, I think.
Emoji
it's
display.
Car emoji display, and you can have on your windshield. So it's a technology answer to your bumper stickers.
Yeah.
It could be pretty annoying. It could be a lot of fun. And you could just have fun emojis to just, make people's days or ruin their days.
Yes. A little payback to that person who tried to cut you off.
Yes. Or no, someone who's like just, has a fancier car than you, and you can just give them, certain fingers.
Yeah.
Things like that. So I thought that it was pretty cool, and it was less than $100. I think around $50 to get that emoji. Yeah.
I think you're right, though. You could definitely, if you see some person behind you looks like they're going through road rage because of traffic,
yeah,
you could maybe put on a little happy face or something like that, and you might kind of make their day. You might help them relax a little bit, and yeah.
Yeah. You have to be pretty creative to get someone like that happy.
Yeah,
but
you probably need a good selection. Maybe some gifts and stuff. But you're right. I mean, just that idea of like a customizable little sticker on your rear window is a pretty cool.
Yeah, and then the dangerous
Nice.
part that I did see is that you can control it with your phone. And so
That's
that's another distraction. You were not trying to not text, and then now you have this emoji thing that you're changing while you're driving. I don't know if it's a great idea.
Yeah.
But it was pretty cool. It's a cool looking thing. You can have, I love you kind of messages too if you wanted to.
Yeah.
If you were that desperate. But
Hey, you can pick up some phone numbers. And
pick up phone numbers.
Yeah.
There you go. Hey, what's your phone number?
Mhm.
You want to give me your phone number? Flash at me. Flash your
Right
headlights.
somewhere I can see it. Yeah.
Yeah. And the other gadget that I liked for this episode was the hotel thing. You want to tell people what that was about?
It's almost like those little Rombos or whatever that people use for cleaning their floors, but it's a little bed cleaner device. I don't know if it used UV lights or something, but it kills like 99% or 99.9% of the germs on bed sheets. And
bacteria, to be specific.
Bacteria.
Probably can't kill viruses. That's why they
Probably
call
not.
it bacteria.
Yeah. But you put it underneath the blankets, and it seems very appropriate for hotels, Airbnb, and all that. If you don't know where you're sleeping, you just put it underneath the covers, and it can zoom around, clean it up, and I guess it's strong enough. It will go underneath comforters. You don't have to worry about all that stuff. And then you have a nice carefree sleeping that night.
Yeah, it didn't seem like it was very big. It was just a small disc, probably 4 to 6 inches around and probably a couple inches deep, and you could carry it in your hand. I mean, your luggage.
Yeah.
And that seemed pretty interesting. It'd be nice to see some reviews to see it actually works or not. Third-party testing is on order.
Yes.
In order here. But yeah. What do you think?
I think we might start seeing that at hotels nowadays too.
Yeah, it was like we go
Probably
down
not.
to the reception and say, "Hey, can I get one of those
Yeah.
antibacteria things?"
Oh.
I was like, "We already did that. I want to do it again." It
Yep.
could be pretty annoying pretty quick.
As long
All
as
right.
it doesn't give them an excuse to not change their sheets. That would be
Right.
bad.
Yeah. Oh, they were probably stop changing sheets because they're like, "Oh, everybody's got one of those.
Yeah.
Oh, we've got one of those, so we cleaned it for you." Yeah, no. thanks.
Sanitized.
Yeah. All right, that's it. Until next time.
See ya.
Please subscribe to us via iTunes, Stitcher, Google Music, and YouTube. And visit us on engineering.tech. This was Engineering Tech Show.